I'ma jump overseas. Ay, niggas are hating on me, yeah.
How y'all doing, ladies and gentlemen? Peace and blessings up on all my AkHis and all my sisters out there. Welcome to Split Decision. I'm your host, AkHi. To my left is no other than
Professor Nims, the pundit with the PhD in pugilism.
Talk to him nice. Don't talk to him twice. Now, his name is a professor for a reason, because he's a real lifetime professor. Now, AkHi stand for my brother in Arabic. For the people that don't know, is a New York, saying. You're supposed to say it AkHi, but because that letter is not in English, it's pronounced as AkHi in English. And obviously, in New York, you know what I'm saying, they say AkHi, so put y'all in game. That's another way of saying Migo. Let's move on to the next topic, man. Hey, your favorite topic. Now, a fan and an article came out, so they sent me this, and they want me to talk about that. Now, Manny Pacquiao versus Prince Naseem Hamed. Hey, this Pacquiao's favorite moment right now, but hey, Pacquiao, one of my favorite fighters of all time. We could speak of his legend all day. Pacquiao, one of the greatest, obviously. I think ESPN has him listed number 2 of the past 25 fighters of the past 25 years. Had, I believe, Floyd Mayweather as number 1. I believe Roy Jones had to be top 2, man. But that's just my opinion. But anyways, so
that's a good opinion. Yeah,
Manny Pacquiao versus Prince Naseem Hamed. Now they saying that's the dream fight. That Prince Naseem Hamed. It ain't no secret. The biggest entertainer in the sport. A fighter would dance to the ring in a flying carpet, flip over the rope, and knocks a motherfucker out. Like he had the audacity to do that shit. I mean, imagine if you failed one time. Like, it would have looked embarrassing. You know what I'm saying? He never failed doing the flip, and he sure never failed to entertain inside and outside of the ring with his trash talk, with his attitude. And I believe that's the blueprint that Floyd Mayweather took to become Money May, because Floyd Mayweather, he was, if you peeped Floyd Mayweather earlier, he was very humble when he came to the boxing game, but he kind of switched his persona afterwards, kind of, getting the page out of Prince Naseem Hamed, and he said it himself. That being said, Prince Naseem Hamed is arguably the biggest puncher, pound for pound, at 126 and below. Manny Pacquiao, one of the greatest fighters of all time, that moved up from 112 to 147. Prince Naseem Hamed did the same.
154.
150. He fought 150 against Margarito. And Margarito wasn't really a champion, but we let that slide. And he was coming off a knockout loss to Sugar Mosley. But Pacquiao started at 112. Prince Naseem Hamed started at 112. Naseem Hamed moved up to 126 because featherweight, featherweight, because he was trying to make money. He was on a rush. He didn't want to win titles there because he was trying to get. 126 wasn't his best division. He was too small for 126. He was only 5'3", 5'5", I believe. But the reason he moved up to 126, he didn't even have abs at 126. But it was to make money, because keep in mind at the time, Mike Tyson was fighting, Holyfield was fighting, Lennox Lewis was still around, Roy Jones, Oscar De La Hoya, Hopkins, Winky Wright, Oscar De La Hoya, prime fighters. I'm talking about the prime versions. Sugar Mosley, even Pernell Whitaker, Pretty Boy Floyd, Prince Naseem Hamed, Morales, Barrera, Marquez. All these fighters was in their prime. That's why when he was at the time as a pound for pound fighter, it was hard to be on the pound for pound list because of all these names I just named. It was hard to get recognition because of all these big names, but he still stole the show and brought attention to the lower weight divisions, because prior to that, there was no fighters at featherweight or below fighting as a main event till Prince Naseem Hamed came around. And he actually fought on pay-per-view on more than one occasion. And that's how crazy, how much of a star he was. He was making like $4 million at the time, which was unheard of for a featherweight. You know what I'm saying? And especially competing with heavyweight. Heavyweight was still alive. You know what I'm saying? I mean, from all the fighters I just named, right now, if you peep the fighters and you peep the fighters then, it was kind of hard to compete. You got Roy Jones and Pretty Boy Floyd, Sugar Mosley, and Oscar.
Well, it's not that, but you had those fighters in their prime. Also,
in their prime. So my question is, who will win a fight in his prime? I'm not talking about the version of Prince Naseem Hamed that lost to Barrera. I ain't talking about the version of Pacquiao that fought at 147. I'm talking about the version of Pacquiao in his prime at 126, and the version of Prince Naseem Hamed at his prime at 126 when he knocked out Boom Boom Johnson to become the undisputed, the unified featherweight champion, beating the best featherweight champion in the world at the time by knocking him out, and he was knocking everybody out at the time. So Prince Naseem Hamed versus Pacquiao, the dream fight. Who takes that win and how you just see that fight breaking down, Professor Nim? I want you to be a professor today. I want you to tell me who you pick and why. So it's your
all right. So I've thought about this. It's hard. Prince Naseem is honestly one of my favorite fighters. It wasn't only I love what he brought, the entertainment value that he brought to the ring, but he also had devastating power.
Yeah.
He broke a lot of rules in boxing, but his power really came from he had very strong, sturdy legs, and once he landed on you, you did funny things. With that said, at 126, Pacquiao was just coming into his own, right? So that was when he first got with Freddie Roach around that time at that weight division. And he was very raw. He was a one-handed fighter at that time, but he was tenacious. He had just a boundless amount of energy. He just hopped around the ring the whole time. And I would, based off of his activity and tenacity, I would take Pacquiao in that fight with a close 12-round decision with a couple of knockdowns, like either way.
Who's getting the knockdowns?
I think for both of them. I think Pacquiao because he had the tendency to run in. I think against Pacquiao, he struggles the most against right-handed fighters who have an educated jab and who has a pretty good pull counter right or just a counter right.
Yeah, speak from the mic a little.
So Prince, he fought mostly from the southpaw stance. He was a switch hitter,
yeah.
but he could fight from the right-handed stance. But I thought he was most effective from his southpaw stance. And so I think on one of those switches that he could catch Pacquiao. But I just think because of Prince Naseem's defensive lapses that he has sometimes, he goes straight back. He has a lot of Ali-esque tendencies, so to speak. And I think it would have caught up to him because he's been dropped. So for him to get dropped is not a big thing. He got dropped 3 times by Kevin Kelly. So
yeah.
And he wasn't
that was the fight of the year too.
It was a
Kevin
great
Kelly
fight.
Was one of the hardest featherweight punches of all time too.
Yeah, but I would take Pacquiao over Kevin Kelly when it comes to power at 126.
Yeah. All right, so let's get straight to it. Now, my opinion on this. So you mentioned, Prince Naseem Hamed got dropped. Pacquiao been knocked out by a featherweight too that started his career at a featherweight, and that's Marquez. And Marquez is not a Prince Naseem Hamed when it comes to his power. Like Prince Naseem Hamed, he fell in love with his power. That's what hurt him. Because toward the end of his career, he wasn't training as much. If you watch, because a lot of people, I know they're going to just base this on, okay, Manny Pacquiao, he beat up Barrera, and, Barrera beat Prince Naseem Hamed.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm not doing that equation,
don't play that triangle theory because obviously Ali lost to Frazier the first time, but look what Ali did to George Foreman. You know what I'm saying? So we can't play that triangle theory because styles make fights. That being said, first of all, Pacquiao been dropped. Pacquiao been knocked out at the lower weight divisions twice because of he rushing in. He was rushing in and got stopped. And he also got.
It was like body punches.
Body punches. That's what I'm saying. Because he was going for the kill too, and he also got knocked out by Marquez when he was over anxious. So this is a tendency that Pacquiao always had. And keep in mind that featherweight Pacquiao lacked defense more than Prince Naseem Hamed almost. And the problem with him, he will walk into a shot. You know what I'm saying? Now, Pacquiao, he had a lot of endurance and he had a lot of speed. But however, he was one-handed fighter And I believe Wayne McCully, he was a fighter that throws a lot of punches. But when he fought Prince Naseem Hamed, he hardly threw because it's what's coming back. Prince Naseem Hamed fell in love with his power toward the end of his career because he stopped training as much. He started training less. You know, when he was younger, he was training 7 hours, 8 hours a day straight, no stop. After that, when he was toward the later part of his career, he kind of slowed down. And by the time he fought Barrera, man, if you saw that, man, listen, I'm going to put a link to the Barrera lead up to that fight. Man, he was getting beat up 2 weeks before the fight by a sparring partner. His trainer, what's his name? Manny Stewart told him, you ain't going to beat Barrera like this. You got to get better. He told him straight up. And that's what I'm saying. You can't judge Prince Naseem Hamed off the Barrera performance because the man didn't even do the flip over the rope. I mean, like, damn, man. If anything could have went that wrong that night, like when he didn't flip over the rope, I already knew, man, something wrong. The man didn't even smile. Like, even when he smiled, you could tell it was a fake smile. He wasn't dancing. He wasn't laughing. He was struggling to make weight because it was the longest layoff to that point. He broke his hand, knocking out I believe it was Sanchez, a fight prior to that when he broke his neck and he broke his hand. He broke Sanchez's neck, but he broke his hand in that fight. That being said, due to that, Prince Naseem Hamed ended up, taking a layoff, and they called him, gave him a lot of money. HBO told him, listen, we got to fight with Barrera. Barrera, prior to that, didn't want to fight him and Morales and Marquez. They all turned the Prince Naseem Hamed fight. He was the money man of the division, unlike Canelo Alvarez, but he was also the most feared man of the division. They all ducked him, but when they saw him vulnerable against Sanchez, Barrera chose to,
he got dropped against AkHi.
Yeah, he got dropped. So he was like, you know what? He looked like he ain't the same no more. So he fought him. Like I said, Prince Naseem Hamed, if you saw the interview for that fight, he stated, once I hit him, they lose their concentration and they ready to get knocked out. I just hope they all safe. That's what I hope. He was praying to God and all that, right? So I'm saying he fell in love with his power so much that he didn't train. He wasn't as elusive.
He fell in love with himself.
Yeah, he wasn't as elusive. He wasn't as elusive like he was early in his career. Like when you watch Prince Naseem Hamed in his prime, like when he was younger, because he won a title when he was 20, 21. Became unified champion at 22. Fighters don't even win a belt till they 26 fight today. He did it in an early age. He had a natural talent like Muhammad Ali, Floyd Mayweather, Roy Jones. However, he's unlike Floyd Mayweather, he wasn't as dedicated. So for the people that's going to be like, oh, Prince Naseem Hamed, look at him, how he look against Barrera. You got to understand, you can't judge a fighter based on his loss. You got to judge a fighter based on his accomplishments. If we judging Manny Pacquiao based on his loss, he got knocked out by Marquez. And Prince Naseem Hamed is a knockout puncher with power. So it's a no-brainer Prince Naseem Hamed wins the fight. So you got to judge Pacquiao of his biggest wins, and that's a Barrera and Morales. And we got to be honest, when he fought Barrera was toward the end of his career. Like he'd been in so many wars.
He was still a good fighter.
He was still a good fighter, but
he was favored to win that fight.
Yeah, but it was because Pacquiao was really like not known.
Yeah,
but at the end of the day, Barrera is one of the greatest fighters of all time. So when people get at Prince Naseem Hamed for losing the Barrera fight, first of all, he struggled to make the weight and went 12 rounds. He said he's surprised he didn't get knocked out. And he fought and lost by 3 points to one of the greatest Mexican fighters of all time and one of the greatest fighters of all time, period. Barrera, if you don't know Barrera, watch his legendary fights with Morales and all these fights. And his win against Prince Naseem Hamed was his biggest win. It tells you how much of a beast Prince Naseem Hamed was and how much of an upset it was. So it ain't like for example, Amir Khan or Manny Pacquiao, when they lost to unknown fighters early on in their career, you could be like, man, you lost to that dude, man. How can you beat this guy? Prince Naseem Hamed lost to one of the greatest of all time. Ain't no shame in that. Ain't no shame in his game. That being said, Prince Naseem Hamed, with his power, with him being able to switch from southpaw to orthodox, with his counter ability, with his reflexes, and with his agility, and the fact that he could be off balance. He could be off balance and knock you out. And we know Manny makes a lot of mistakes. He ain't no Floyd Money Mayweather when he ain't going to give you opportunity to hit him.
Especially at featherweight.
Yeah,
he wasn't in close.
Man, the man made too many mistakes. So it's like if you know, like swimming, if you swim, you're gonna get wet. If you box, you're gonna get hit. If you box Manny, you're gonna hit him. Can you knock him out? Obviously, we've seen Manny Pacquiao run into a shot or two and been knocked out. I believe Prince Naseem Hamed could land a shot because that's what he looks for. He looks for that perfect shot.
Predicting?
I think Prince Naseem Hamed knocks him out coming in because I think what it is, I think Manny gonna fall in love with hitting Prince Naseem. Like, let's say if Manny's able to hit Prince Naseem Hamed because he was so fast, like Kevin Kelly did, and he lands a punch or two, and let's say he even dropped Prince Naseem Hamed. Prince Naseem Hamed never been stopped. He always had a great chin. Prince Naseem Hamed never blocked a punch and never been knocked out. That's too impressive for me. I believe because he got such a great recovery and great chin and great legs. Like Manny Pacquiao gonna go for the kill or think he hurt, and Prince Naseem gonna catch him with a counter and put his lights out like he did to Kevin Kelly, kind of in that similar situation. But I believe the best version of Prince Naseem Hamed, I hardly see anybody beating him at 126 and below. And keep in mind, Prince Naseem Hamed shouldn't even be fighting at 126. The reason he fought 126, like I explained, it was just too much attention in boxing because Mike Tyson heavyweight was lit up and Roy Jones was around and all these great fighters. Even Floyd wasn't getting recognition like that as great as he was early on in his career. So that's why Prince Naseem Hamed, you know, chose to move up to 126 because featherweight was a known division. Like, if you fight at bantamweight, it was like, we don't know you much. But featherweight was like, okay, we let that slide. That's why they let him fight on pay-per-view.
But they had legends fighting at that weight division too.
Yeah, and that's why I brought attention to the featherweight division. And even thanks to Prince Naseem Hamed, it opens door for Floyd Mayweather to copy his blueprint and become Money May. Fighters even a Manny Pacquiao opened doors for fighters from the lower weight divisions to become superstar in the game because Prince Naseem Hamed was the first superstar coming from the lower weight divisions because he had that Mike Tyson power with the Muhammad Ali reflexes and cocky attitude. And you know, for y'all information, Prince Naseem Hamed was very humble. You know, as a fighter behind the cameras. That's why I said Floyd Mayweather was like, man, this dude humble as shit. And he out here acting hard as hell on camera. I'm going to do the same thing. And obviously he took that villain persona and he became Money May after being Pretty Boy Floyd. That being said, what you got to say about what I said, you know, about Manny and stuff like that, you know, making the case for Manny, because you picked Manny, right?
I got Manny like for a hard-fought 12-round decision.
You don't think Prince Naseem going to put him to sleep with one of the big shots coming?
I can't see it.
I mean, Marquez, let's not forget about it. Marquez, you know, Manny's one of my favorite fighters of all time. Now, don't get me wrong, but Marquez, even at featherweight, he gave Manny a hard time.
He gave him a hard time, but he was a lot more technical than the Prince. And he did knock him out that last time, but this was after fighting somebody for 4 different times.
He was catching him with that same punch that he knocked him out with throughout every fight. And Morales beat Manny Pacquiao. When I believe Morales was kind of toward the end of his career as well, because the Barrera and Morales they've been in too much war.
Well, no,
it affected them.
What's the common trait for all of those fighters is that they were right-handed fighters who had an educated jab and had a good counter right hand, and that just wasn't Prince Naseem's kind of natural thing. You're
sleeping on Prince Naseem Hamed right-handed stand. He knocked out the #1 featherweight at the time when he was 22, and he knocked out Boom Boom Johnson, being an orthodox fighter with a counter uppercut. I'm saying Prince Naseem Hamed could fight multiple ways. He could fight 5 different ways. He could fight an orthodox fighter, a southpaw fighter, and he could give you 2 different looks. So it's like almost.
I tried. He's one of my. I've seen maybe not all his fights, probably at least 90% of his fight. I love watching him fight. I just couldn't understand somebody that
talented.
That diminutive who could generate that much power. And I just couldn't understand it. And
he punched like a middleweight.
And he was somebody who he had a whole brand of entertainment that he brought to boxing that was beautiful for boxing. I mean, I loved. He was a lightning rod for the criticism, but he was something that boxing needed at the time. Yeah. I still just in my objective opinion.
Well, we need him today, not then. We have Mike Tyson and all of them then. If Prince Naseem Hamed is around in social media, doing the flip over the rope, dancing in the flying carpet, coming in as a prince or a king, whatever, and comes and knocks somebody out. The audacity to do that. Like, fighters don't even have the confidence to talk shit, let alone talk shit, dance to the ring, flip over the rope, and knock somebody the fuck out while your hands is down and making a miss, not blocking a single punch. That being said, that was impressive. But like I said, I love Pacquiao, but I feel like he just made too many mistakes for the Prince. And when you box, I mean, like, you box, you're going to get hit. You swim, you're going to get drowned if you fighting the Prince, because, you know, all it takes is one. And I believe at Prince Naseem Hamed best. I'm not saying when he fought Barrera, because the version when he fought Barrera, I believe will lose to Pacquiao all day. I'm saying the best version.
How come that wasn't his best, though? What did you see in that?
Man, he couldn't. Bro, I seen Prince Naseem Hamed. He had footwork. Prince Naseem Hamed had footwork in his prime or toward early in his career. He had footwork. He was elusive. You see head movement. You see him pumping the jab. You see him coming with counters. When he fought Barrera, he was stuck in the mud. He couldn't, like, he didn't even move his feet. He was getting caught with jabs all night. He was looking like he looking for one punch all night, but he wasn't trying to set it up like he normally do. Like I said, before that fight, he was struggling to make weight. I'm not trying to make excuses for him, but he didn't even make excuses. Like he didn't make excuses after the fight. He took his loss like a man. But I'm saying at the end of the day, facts matter. Like, the man struggled to make weight. He relied on his power a lot. He didn't train like he was supposed to. Did you see the interview where
I watched the whole, like, there's a documentary called I forgot the name, but it's about the whole Marco Antonio Barrera fight against Prince Naseem. So it goes back there, and it really, to me, it just showed somebody who was turning into a bit of a narcissist, and he was just kind of feeling himself. Like, he had this whole thing he did with the gloves, which I thought was ridiculous, and just gave you some insight into his mindset.
Kind of like Floyd did with
No. He went and got some specially ordered gloves that were of goat skin, and they were the color of green because green represents Islam, right? Or to a effect. Yeah. So they asked him. So he went and got it specially ordered. He went and got these gloves. So when they had the gloves come in, they had some other gloves for Marco Antonio Barrera, and he was just like, well, let me see these gloves. And then so Marco had already chose his gloves because Prince had his gloves specially ordered. And then Prince was just like, nah, like, I want these gloves. And it was just like, no, like, those are the gloves that Marco Antonio Barrera chose. He was just like, no, it's like, I get first choice of the gloves, so I want these gloves. But then, like, let me say, like, he made a whole big ordeal of this to the fact that they ended up both, if you watch the match, they ended up both wearing red gloves because they couldn't decide. And then when he was getting his hands wrapped before the fight, he made everybody wait about 45 minutes. Because he was just, it doesn't feel right. Do this. Like, no, we're gonna make everybody wait. And he was acting like a little spoiled prince.
Well, let me explain this. It's like what Sugar Ray Leonard said one time. He said he would look in the mirror, and if he sees Sugar Ray Leonard, the fighter, he knows he's gonna go in the ring and he won't lose to nobody. And sometimes he will look every now and then, every blue moon, he will look in the mirror, and he will see Sugar Ray. He won't see Sugar Ray Leonard. Yeah. Now he will see. I think he said he will see Leonard. He won't see Sugar Ray, right?
Yeah.
That's where he know he's gonna lose, and he lost every time. I believe Prince Naseem Hamed was so confident throughout his career, and that night we all know he had his hand broke before that. That's why he took a layoff, his longest layoff before the Barrera fight. It wasn't that long of a layoff, but still was a layoff for the Prince. And when he broke his hand, he was wary about breaking his hand again and all that, right? But the reason he did all that is it goes back to that when he looked in the mirror, he didn't see the Prince. He saw NAZ. He saw Lil Nas. That's what I believe, because when he was walking in the arena, I didn't see the confidence. I didn't see, like, Prince. I didn't see him laugh. I didn't see his confidence. I didn't see his energy. It was like he was down. Like, just go back and watch the fight and peep his energy and peep his energy in other fights. That's why I said he was defeated before the fight. And I was surprised that Barrera didn't stop him because he struggled to make the weight. Didn't you see Stewart when he went to visit him in camp 2 weeks before the fight? Mm-hmm. And he saw him getting beat up by a sparring partner.
Well,
Come on,
like
man.
they brought in 2 sparring partners.
And they was beating him up, man.
It was, but like
how you gonna?
It was,
how you gonna
but like
look?
part of it was like Prince doing Prince stuff.
No,
like
no,
he was like jumping up doing stuff, and I'm like, what is he doing?
That's
but
what
that was like
that's what I'm saying.
Part of it was like
everybody could have an off night, but if you don't take the fight seriously against a legendary fighter like Barrera, man, you're gonna have not an off night, a fucked up night, because you out here. Barrera is training in the mountains. Yeah. Training, you know, Barrera said that was his hardest training camp. That training camp and Morales' first fight, I believe, he trained his ass off for that. And Barrera stated 3 camps.
He went out to Big Bear.
Prince Naseem Hamed, the Morales fight, and the Marquez fight. He went and trained so hard for them fights. He said Prince Naseem Hamed's fight was one of his hardest fight training camps and all that, right? He's training as hard as he can. Prince Naseem Hamed out here playing around. Now, what you're doing in the sparring is how you're going to look in the ring.
Exactly.
He out here playing around. Like Prince Naseem Hamed, I know how he, like, I heard stories before, like, in sparring, like, what he looked like. He knocked his partners out. He knocks his partners out. In that fight in particular, they was beating him up. Stewart was like, what is he doing? That's what I'm saying. He didn't take the fight seriously. He was watching tapes.
I don't see how you not take a fight seriously.
Bro, the man was watching tapes of Barrera getting knocked out by Roy Jones Jr. Not Roy Jones, but Roy Jones Jr. Like a decade ago, Stewart was telling him, don't listen to your trainer. Like, have you seen Barrera lately against Morales and how he look? He's a boxer now. Bro, and he wasn't a boxer then, but I'm saying Barrera, when he fought the Prince, he switched his style. He went from Mexican style to Muhammad Ali style.
Well, he had already made that transition.
Yeah, but Prince wasn't. He was watching the fights between him and Roy Jones and shit. So imagine you over here going in a fight thinking the dude gonna come to you and you're gonna catch him with a shot and knock him out like Roy Jones Jr. did. And the dude out here looking like Muhammad Ali japping you all night. Prince Naseem got confused. So he wasn't prepared. He was lacking. And like I said, that's why he really lost that fight. But forget about that fight in particular. I'm just saying you can't judge him based on that fight because everything went wrong that night. Like the lead up to the fight, everything. So you got to judge him based on his accomplishment. Because if we're going to do the same thing to Pacquiao, we're going to talk about the Marquez loss. We can't talk about that. We got to talk about Pacquiao when he beat Barrera and all them guys, right? So I believe that Pacquiao version when he, you know, obviously was missing the right hand almost. I think Prince Naseem Hamed will adjust and counter the left hand. And Prince Naseem Hamed, one thing he did say, he loved fighting southpaws. He said that's one of his favorite things is to fight southpaws because he could set them for that knockout blow. And we know what time it is with Prince Naseem Hamed. With his power, if he lands, you got to go. That being said, he just got to land right one time. So that being said, any last thoughts on that before we leave? Because Prince Naseem Hamed, man, that's what got me into the sport. And then obviously I already knew Muhammad Ali. But when I watched Prince, man, I used early in the morning. Hey, peep this. So early in the morning, my family, I used to be a baby. You know what I'm saying? I got to go to sleep. At 8 o'clock in the morning, I got a curfew. Prince Naseem Hamed back in Yemen, I got to watch the fight. The fight would come on at 5 o'clock in the morning. Like certain fights of his. Early in the morning, like 5 o'clock. Man, family stay up, we'll party and all that. Man, I got to take my ass to sleep. You know what I do? I act like I'm asleep. And then when the fight is on, like I'm in my, you know what I'm saying, my mom, you know what I mean, holding me and shit, I peep the fight. Like I open my one eye like and watch the fight and shit. Like I remember that. I don't remember the fight, but I remember opening my eyes and all that. So that's what got me to the sport. I watched them like,
that's what's up.
You know what I mean? Then Muhammad Ali, obviously, he was just too popular. You know, like Muhammad Ali is just like the most popular fighter in the world. I knew Muhammad Ali before I seen him. Like, that name, and then when I seen him, I'm like, that looked like Muhammad Ali. I ain't even know Muhammad Ali. Like, I never seen him. It's just that it's so crazy, man. But anyways, any last thoughts on that?
Yeah, I just want to say, so the fight that you were talking about is Junior Jones when you were saying like Roy Jones or something.
Oh, Roy, I said Roy Jones. My bad. Junior Jones.
It's Junior Jones.
Okay, Junior Jones.
Yeah. So he did beat Marco Antonio Barrera
he
twice.
knocked him out. Yeah, he knocked. So he was watching that when that happened like a decade ago instead of watching what you were supposed to fight. So it was kind of his trainer fault, like that not Stewart, the other one. He had two trainers. So
yeah,
I feel like
the guy that used to train Oscar De La Hoya.
And keep in mind, after the Kel,
I think Oscar Suarez.
Yeah, and after the Kevin Kelly fight, if you peep this, he left his old time trainer that trained him the style, the awkward style in the UK in Sheffield. He left him. He had a problem or two with him. Left his promotional company too, and became his own promoter. And he brought his own trainer. And his new trainer made him more basic. Like he made him throwing it. Like he made him more basic as a softball.
I actually like that. I
didn't like that because what made
that's a
Prince,
good point. That's a
what
good
made
point.
Prince unique is his awkwardness. It's like the fact that like Sean Porter today. What make Sean Porter hard is he's hard to prepare for. You don't got no fighter that's gonna act like Sean Porter in sparring. Prince Naseem Hamed, who you gonna bring into sparring that's gonna act like the Prince? So his moves, like he won't counter the jab by a straight left like Pacquiao. He will throw, he will slip the jab and counter with like a wild uppercut.
Yeah, and
so
you,
that's
you
what
can
made
keep
him
some
unique.
of that, but like I think as he rose up in competition when he came here, like some of that got exploited. So to me, his best fight was, I think it was
Tom Johnson. I think that's what
you did not. No, let me show you.
He looked invincible in that fight. That fight and Robertson when he first won the title, I believe that was a great fight. And the fight before, or the fight, his 23 fight, that was a great fight too for him. But it's he had a lot of great fights.
It was the one where he was real technical. It was
when he before Bungu, yeah.
Bungu was that's one of my, and that was probably one of his least kind of like out there. That guy was just so, and I was like, that guy right there is scary.
Nah, that version of
that
Prince,
guy right there,
that dedicated jab and the wild uppercuts, because you know what he was doing? He would throw a jab, and then he would act like he would throw a jab, but midway he would turn it to an uppercut and a hook, and then like man, he like killed that dude. But I'm saying that version of Prince, I believe knocks out Barrera. I believe he knocks out what's his name, Manny Pacquiao. But the problem with Prince, like I said, he left his trainer, and the new trainer made him more basic, so he became more predictable. Imagine this unpredictable fighter that throws counters you don't see coming. You know, when you used to seeing a counter come like this, but comes like that, now you be like, oh shit, you don't see it coming. That's why he used to knock fighters out. But when he made him more basic, I believe he made him more average. And then Prince wasn't training as hard, so he didn't even have that stamina and where he gonna be able to use his feet all night like he did in his prime. So it's more of you know, he fell in love with his own hype and he stopped doing what got him to that point. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like that. My favorite quote: hard work beat talent when talent doesn't work as hard. That being said, on to the next topic. You know, stay tuned, grab y'all popcorn and all that. And y'all saw last show. Me and Professor Nim. Professor Nim went at it.
I did want to say something, man. Like they saying that I might have bodied you, man. Is that
true? Hey, you know they said this show is split decision, but I knocked you out. Oh. That's what they said. Hey, Professor Nim was supposed to go out with me last night. He was a no-show. I had to check on him like, is my man in the hospital?
Not true.
You know what I'm saying? He a professor, but I'm about to be a doctor, you know what I'm saying? And go take care of him real quick. But thank y'all for tuning in to Split Decision. To my left, obviously, it's Professor Nim, a real lifetime professor.
I want to say it's Nims, too. Is with I got the name Professor Nims. But it's actually Nims.
It's Professor Nims, but today he came to my AkHi University. I took him to my AkHi University. Hopefully, he graduated. That being said, we out here, you know, matching. Hey, we ain't out here trying to be looking alike and stuff like that, but he out here looking.
Shout out to Palestine also.
Yeah, this is from Yemen, man. We're just talking about Palestine, but shout out to Palestine too. You got it from Palestine?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
I got this from Yemen, straight from the motherland, baby. Comment below who y'all think won the debate. Is it Professor Nim? Because he claiming Professor Nim's won, but we don't see him in the comment section though. But we peep all the AkHi hashtags, so I appreciate all of y'all. Now, if you do if y'all believe Professor Nim won the debate, obviously
hashtag Nims. That's all you got to do is put hashtag Nim, because everybody was just like the guy on the right or the good hashtag Nims, and then of course everybody knows AkHi.
But you know what happened though. You know when you get taken to school by the AkHi, you know what I'm saying? Yo, brother over here, you know what I'm saying? Who bringing up facts back to back? I'm out here looking like Drake while you out here looking like Meek Mill. You know what I'm saying? I don't got a ghostwriter though. You know what I'm saying? I'm like Russ. I write my own shit.
He got a whole team. He got a whole team behind him.
You know what I'm saying? It's all hard work and dedication over here. I'm looking like Russ over here. You know what I'm saying? We the wave, we the mob, we the movement. It's AkHi TV, and y'all tuning in to Split Decision. And yeah, it's Split Decision, but y'all fans are telling me to change it to knockout, because I'm over here looking for the knockout every show. I'm over here knocking out Professor Nim every time I get a chance to. And that's my man. He ain't
I think
even
my
trying to
brother
go
got-
out with me no more.
I
The
think
man,
my brother
hey,
got CTE already, but like how many smart matches you been in? Hey, but one thing, hey, we appreciate all the views, but also we appreciate all the comments, good and bad. Like I said, I love them. I like being the bad guy.
I enjoy the realest comments though. You know what I'm saying? Like I want y'all to bring up facts and you know what I'm saying? Like at the end of the day, I know none of y'all want smoke with me because every time y'all say something about me, y'all didn't say nothing but y'all hating on my drip. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, y'all ain't talk about anything that I'm saying that's wrong. Y'all ain't bringing up facts to contradict what I'm saying. Everything I say is facts to support my opinion. That being said, appreciate it to everybody that's tuning in. I appreciate all the love and support. And we will go live soon when we get things in order and together. That being said, Professor Nim, appreciate it. We had a great show today. Now, I believe I won the show. I don't know how you feel. I feel like $1 million bucks. How you feel?
I'm feeling like I'm looking, you know what I'm saying? So, Drip, so I'm feeling good, you know what I'm saying? I'm feeling good.
Well, I'm out here looking like Pretty Boy Floyd the way I'm out here with my defense. I'm out here being undefeated on Split Decision, baby. That being said, thank y'all for tuning in. Subscribe below if you're trying to get smarter by the minute. If you're trying to get dumber by the second, don't listen to these casual fans. Click on the notification bell to get notified every time we go live, and we outie.
Peace.
I see, shut I see. Yeah. Let go. Hey.
Why? And the high girl wanna say, I don't got time for the hate. I need more time in my day. I put an ice in my bay, yeah. You riding on me, I get my drip overseas.